Hey guys, tonight we trudge through the scented corridors of ancient Egyptian royal palaces, where marble pools shimmer under the warm desert sun, and the air smells of sweet myrrh, until you realize that beneath all this luxury, hygiene was a whole other story. Imagine slipping into a royal bath meant to soothe your skin, only to discover it's been reused, teeming with oils, dust, and who knows what else. You probably won't survive this without cringing a little. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. While you're at it, drop your location and local time below. Let's see who's tuning in from where as we slowly unravel the gross habits of Egyptian royal women. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You start your day in a grand palace, surrounded by smooth limestone walls, painted with colorful hieroglyphs depicting gods and goddesses. And you, a queen of Egypt, are preparing for the daily ritual of bathing. This isn't just a quick rinse. It's an elaborate ceremony involving warm water poured from alabaster jars, scented oils, and attendants ready to assist you at every turn. But here's the kicker. Despite the grandeur, these royal baths were often less than hygienic by modern standards. The water you soak in might be drawn from the Nile or stored in large basins, and it's reused by many members of the household. Imagine sharing bath water with a few dozen people, some freshly scented, some just a little less so. That's the reality. Historians still argue whether the use of oils and perfumes was to compensate for less frequent washing, or just a cultural preference for softness and scent over scrubbing. The oils themselves were a strange mix: castor oil, sesame, and even animal fats, often combined with fragrant resins like frankincense. When applied generously, they left your skin feeling smooth but sticky, creating a perfect environment for dust and dirt to cling to as you walked through open-air courtyards. You'd think rubbing mud on your body was unthinkable here, but some royal treatments included mineral-rich clays thought to purify the skin, even if the mud wasn't exactly clean. Interestingly, royal women sometimes used a mixture of milk and honey as a skin softener. While it sounds delicious enough to eat, the sticky sweetness would quickly attract flies, making you the unwitting host of a tiny buzzing entourage. These peculiar habits show that luxury didn't necessarily guarantee cleanliness. Sometimes it just masked the dirt with fragrance and texture. Daily bathing for queens wasn't about eliminating grime, but creating a ritualized moment of indulgence. And don't imagine a single bath per day was enough. The Nile's heat demanded frequent refreshment, yet the reuse of water and limited plumbing meant the reality was often muddier than you'd expect. Private baths existed, but weren't always filled with fresh water. Water was a precious commodity, and there's a quirky fringe tidbit. Some queens believed that bathing in cold water drawn at dawn could prolong youth. Though refreshing, cold water immersion likely wasn't common given the logistics of heating water for the majority of baths. Historians still debate whether these practices were widespread among royalty or more isolated to specific queens known for eccentric habits. Your morning unfolds in these slippery rituals, oils glistening, water gently cooling your skin, but beneath the surface, the luxury has a slightly grimy undertone. Yet, you press on, the promise of soft skin and divine scent guiding you through. Perfumes waft gently through the palace halls, a fragrant shield meant to charm visitors and disguise less pleasant realities. You, the royal woman, delicately dab thick aromatic oils behind your ears and on your wrists, confident the scents will keep unwelcome odors at bay. But here's the twist. Some of these perfumes were concocted from ingredients that today would make you recoil. Royal Egyptian perfumes often included myrrh, frankincense, and cinnamon, spices that are pleasant enough. But they also used animal-derived elements like civet musk and castoreum, which, let's just say, have a rather pungent reputation. Civet musk, for example, comes from secretions of the civet cat, which doesn't exactly sound like something you'd want anywhere near your nose. These musks added a deep, musky undertone prized by the elite, but arguably not very fresh-smelling to the modern sniffer. Imagine blending sweet and sour, floral and musty all in one bottle designed to cloak the wearer in a cloud of luxury. It's an odd mix, but it worked in a time before deodorants and antiseptics. The oil's thick texture also helped seal moisture on the skin, which probably contributed to a sticky sensation as you went about your day. Historians still argue whether these perfumes were more about masking natural body odors or serving as a marker of status and ritual purity. A quirky fringe tidbit. Some perfumers experimented with animal dung, believing it enhanced the scent's longevity. Yes, dung. While it might make you wrinkle your nose today, these bizarre ingredients were treasured for their ability to fix the fragrance, meaning to keep it lingering longer on skin and clothing. You wouldn't exactly spritz yourself with this in the morning commute, but in the royal court, it was all about making an impression. Perfumes weren't just about personal scent. They also played a role in religious rituals and were used to anoint statues of gods. Applying fragrance was a sacred act, weaving the divine into daily life. You'd find yourself enveloped in aroma not just to please humans, but to honor deities, making hygiene an intersection of the practical, the spiritual, and the theatrical. Interestingly, these scented oils sometimes trapped dust and dirt on the skin instead of repelling them, which meant that the perfume was effectively camouflaging the underlying grime. You might think a queen's skin glowed pure and clean beneath that scent cloud, but it was often a sticky mask over less pristine skin. Historians also debate how widely available these luxury perfumes were to women outside the royal family. While some argue they were exclusive to the elite, others suggest a degree of diffusion into noble households. But for you, as a queen, the perfume was a daily armor against the less glamorous realities of palace life. And a final little note. Certain and scents were thought to have aphrodisiac properties, adding another layer to their use. Whether or not the musk truly sparked passion is up for debate. But you can imagine the whispered court gossip fueled by these aromatic mysteries. So, as you glide through your day, perfume trailing behind like a royal fog, remember, what smells divine now might have been concocted from ingredients that would make your modern self gasp. You run your fingers through your hair, or rather, the wig perched atop your head, a hallmark of royal beauty and status. These elaborate wigs, often made from human hair or sheep's wool, were carefully styled with braids, beads, and sometimes even gold thread. But here's a little secret. While they looked magnificent, they were also hotbeds of scalp irritation and itchiness. Royal women favored wigs not just for fashion, but to protect their shaved heads from the harsh Egyptian sun and lice infestations. Shaving was a common hygiene tactic, yes. Even queens embraced the bald look underneath. But the wigs themselves, often worn for days or weeks, could trap oils, sweat, and dust. The thick application of scented oils designed to soften hair and scalp only made things stickier, creating a perfect storm for fungal infections or flaky dandruff. A mainstream fact is that wigs symbolized wealth and power. Their quality and decoration showed one's rank at court. But the fringe tidbit is that some royal women even scented their wigs with aromatic substances, sometimes infusing them with resin or incense smoke to add that divine aura. You can imagine, though, that these added scents could also amplify scalp discomfort rather than relieve it. Historians still argue whether the discomfort caused by wigs was considered a minor price to pay for status, or if some queens actively sought alternative headgear during hotter months. The evidence is mixed, with some depictions showing bare heads or simple scarves, suggesting a nuanced approach to headwear hygiene. Another quirky detail: lice combs, often made from bone or ivory, were an essential royal grooming tool. These combs were intricately carved and sometimes passed down as treasured family heirlooms. You'd spend a good portion of your morning ritual combing through your hair or wig, hunting for pests. Lice infestations were common, and even the highest-ranking women weren't immune. No amount of perfume could mask the social embarrassment of a lice outbreak. The sticky oils you apply to your scalp to keep hair soft can ironically trap even more dirt and dust, leading to itchy scalp conditions that no amount of scratching can fully fix. This is where your attendant's gentle hands come in, massaging your scalp with herbal infusions meant to soothe irritation. Though whether they actually helped is up for debate. Wigs were also expensive, requiring frequent maintenance and the skilled hands of palace hairstylists who used hot irons and pin curls, creating elaborate styles that could weigh several pounds. Imagine balancing that, not just physically, but also socially, knowing everyone's eyes were on your coiffure as a measure of your dignity. In short, your hair care routine was less about pure cleanliness and more about image management, balancing luxury with unavoidable discomfort. You might have looked the part of a goddess, but underneath, your scalp was a battlefield of oils, lice, and dust. You step outside onto the palace terrace, where the scent of the Nile drifts lazily on the breeze. The river is your lifeline, its waters nourishing the land, sustaining your people, and flowing through the very veins of Egyptian civilization. Yet, paradoxically, the Nile's water, so essential, is also a source of less than ideal hygiene around the royal household. Water for washing and drinking often came directly from the river or from pools fed by it. These pools could become stagnant, turning into a breeding ground for bacteria and parasites. Imagine dipping your hands or feet into what you hope is refreshing water, only to risk exposure to microscopic invaders. The ancient Egyptians did not have modern filtration or sanitation methods, so the river water was as much a health hazard as a blessing. Historians still argue whether the royals took special precautions, such as sourcing their water from cleaner tributaries, or using certain plants believed to purify water. Some texts suggest the use of natron, a naturally occurring salt mixture, to cleanse and disinfect water, but its widespread application remains debated. You might find it surprising that the royal palaces, though opulent, lacked sophisticated plumbing. Wastewater often drained into the nearby gardens or courtyards, and sometimes even back into the river itself. This meant that while you bathed in Nile water, the very same river was being used as a sewer downstream, a recycling process that would make anyone today shudder. A fringe tidbit involves the belief that certain plants growing along the Nile, papyrus and lotus, for example, had purifying powers. Royal bath attendants sometimes threw fresh papyrus stalks into bathing pools to cleanse the water. Whether this was truly effective or just symbolic is a matter still debated among scholars. And then there's the practical matter of the water's mineral content. The Nile carried silt and minerals that could leave a gritty residue on your skin after bathing. Imagine stepping out of your bath feeling less like a queen and more like you'd just wrestled with a sack of sand. This gritty feeling was often combated with oils and scrubs, but as you'll recall from earlier, these treatments came with their own hygiene trade-offs. The heat of the Egyptian sun meant you probably bathed multiple times daily to feel fresh. Yet the constant exposure to the Nile's questionable water quality meant that each bath was a gamble. You might emerge feeling clean, but coated in a thin layer of sediment, stuck to the oils applied after bathing. So, while the Nile was a source of life and renewal, it was also a reminder that royal hygiene wasn't quite the pristine experience you might have imagined. This paradox shaped the daily lives of queens, who balanced reverence for the river with practical concerns about cleanliness. You lift a small, carved container and reach for your royal tooth-cleaning paste, a gritty concoction far removed from the minty freshness you're used to today. Egyptian royal women placed great importance on their teeth, viewing them as a reflection of health and beauty. But their dental care routines were, let's say, a bit abrasive. The pastes often included powdered ashes, crushed eggshells, and pumice mixed with a binding agent like water or honey. While these ingredients might sound like a recipe for sparkling teeth, the reality was a bit harsher. The gritty particles wore down enamel over time, leading to tooth sensitivity and decay, somewhat ironic given the goal of a pristine smile. Interestingly, Egyptians also used chew sticks from aromatic trees like Salvadora persica, which have natural antibacterial properties. These sticks doubled as toothbrushes and breath fresheners, a small comfort in the dusty environment of a palace. Historians still argue whether the abrasive pastes were used daily or reserved for ceremonial occasions. Some suggest that the elite might have had gentler alternatives, but evidence is scarce. In any case, dental hygiene was less about comfort and more about ritual care. A quirky fringe tidbit: some pastes included crushed beetles or ground oyster shells, which sound more like cocktail ingredients than dental products. The inclusion of these odd materials might have been believed to strengthen teeth or improve breath. But to you, it probably felt like brushing with sandpaper. You probably didn't have access to toothpaste tubes, so your attendants prepared fresh batches daily, carefully mixing the powdery ingredients in small bowls. The paste was applied with fingers or rudimentary tools, making the whole process a sensory experience filled with odd textures and smells. And while you polished your teeth with these rough mixtures, remember that sugar, as we know it, wasn't common. So cavities were less about sweets and more about wear and tear from dust and grit in the air. However, a royal diet rich in dates and figs meant you were not entirely free from dental decay. The real challenge was breath. With the warm Egyptian climate and limited oral hygiene options, you probably relied on aromatic herbs and the aforementioned chewing sticks to keep your mouth feeling somewhat fresh. Still, breath probably wasn't the star of your courtly presence, so your dental care was a balancing act of abrasive cleaning, aromatic masking, and daily rituals that kept your smile fit for a queen. Even if modern dentists might raise an eyebrow or two, you pause before applying your carefully prepared kohl eyeliner, admiring the deep black frame it will give to your eyes. This signature look of Egyptian royalty is not just about beauty, it's also a statement of power and divine favor. Yet, lurking behind this glamorous exterior is a surprisingly messy and sometimes toxic world of cosmetics. Kohl, made from galena, a lead sulfide mineral, was ground into a fine powder and mixed with oils to create a dark, smudgeable paste. While the rich black pigment accentuated the eyes, the lead content was actually harmful. Prolonged use could lead to lead poisoning, although the precise health effects on Egyptian royals remain a subject of debate among historians. Beyond kohl, red ochre was used as rouge, and malachite, a green copper carbonate, was ground into powders for eyeshadow. These minerals, while visually stunning, contained heavy metals that could irritate the skin or cause infections. The paradox of wanting to look radiant but risking health issues was an everyday gamble for queens. A quirky fringe tidbit: some ancient recipes for makeup included animal fats mixed with crushed insects or mineral dust, producing textures that were thick, sticky, and prone to clogging pores. You'd spend your morning carefully applying these mixtures, hoping for glow, but sometimes ending up with an itchy, irritated complexion. Historians still argue how much these cosmetics contributed to chronic eye infections and skin problems. Was the glamorous look worth the health risk? Some scholars think the benefits in social and religious status outweighed the dangers. Interestingly, cosmetics had spiritual significance. Makeup was believed to ward off evil spirits and protect the wearer from the harsh desert sun. This dual role, as both beautifier and talisman, kept makeup deeply embedded in royal daily routines, despite its downsides. Your attendants would have been skilled in applying these substances, ensuring the lines were precise and the colors bold. The process was slow and deliberate, part of a larger grooming ritual that reinforced your identity as a queen and goddess on earth. But beneath the surface of this artistry was a sticky mess, layers of oils, pigments, and powders that sometimes smudged or irritated, needing careful removal each night. The challenge of keeping your skin clean under such heavy cosmetic use was real, especially when running water was scarce. So, as you admire your reflection, remember that royal makeup was both a symbol of power and a messy, risky affair, perfectly fitting for a queen whose equal parts divine and human. You lift the heavy golden crown, feeling its weight settle onto your head like a small sunbeam pressing down. This crown, intricately designed with precious metals and jewels, is a symbol of your divine right to rule. Yet, beneath its dazzling exterior lies a less glamorous truth about headwear and hygiene. The royal crowns and headdresses, often adorned with gold, lapis lazuli, and turquoise, weren't just ornamental, they were worn daily, sometimes for hours on end, during ceremonies and private moments alike. The dense materials, combined with the humid Egyptian climate, meant your scalp was trapped under layers of metal and fabric, creating a warm, sweaty environment. This combination was a breeding ground for skin irritations, rashes, and even fungal infections. Imagine the discomfort of a hot, itchy scalp beneath all that glittering opulence. The weight of the crown itself could cause headaches or strain your neck muscles after prolonged wear. A mainstream fact is that crowns were often padded with cloth or leather to protect the scalp. But these linings weren't always changed frequently. leading to a buildup of sweat and oils. Servants likely tried to keep the padding clean, but without modern washing facilities, thorough hygiene was difficult. A quirky fringe tidbit is that some queens wore scented sachets or small pouches filled with aromatic herbs tucked under their headdresses to mask odors and provide a pleasant scent close to their skin. While charming, these additions sometimes exacerbated the warmth and moisture trapped beneath the crown. Historians still argue whether some queens removed their crowns more frequently than the records suggest, or if the daily pressure and discomfort were just accepted as part of royal duty. Artistic depictions rarely show queens adjusting their crowns, but behind the scenes, there may have been much more fussing and relief-seeking. Moreover, the crowns often rested on wigs rather than bare heads, adding another layer of material between metal and scalp. Think of it as a royal sandwich of hair, fabric, and gold. This layering trapped dirt and oils, making regular cleaning imperative but challenging. The ritual of donning the crown was ceremonial and sacred, but the hygiene realities were far less divine. You might have wished for a simpler headpiece or a day without the heavy weight crushing your temples. So while the crown proclaimed your power and prestige, it was also a sweaty, itchy crown of thorns in disguise, glittering, but not exactly breathable. You ease into your royal bedchamber, silk sheets pulled back to reveal a mattress stuffed with fragrant herbs and linen. Yet, despite the care put into your sleeping arrangements, the odors of the day cling stubbornly to your clothes and skin. Sleeping, it seems, was another frontier in the ongoing battle for royal freshness. The bedding was often made from linen woven from flax, prized for its softness and breathability. However, mattresses were stuffed with plant materials like straw or dried reeds, which could harbor dust mites, insects, and even the occasional scorpion. Not exactly the kind of bedtime companions you'd hope for. Imagine trying to relax while tiny critters scurry underneath you. A mainstream fact. Egyptian royals often sprinkled their mattresses with aromatic herbs such as cedar, thyme, and juniper to mask unpleasant smells and repel pests. The scent was supposed to lull you into restful sleep, though the reality of staying clean through the night was complicated by the hot climate and limited washing options. A quirky fringe tidbit is that some queens slept with fans blowing softly, both for comfort and to disperse odors in the room. This gentle hum you might hear is a reminder that royal bedrooms had their own unique ambience, part luxury, part practical necessity. Historians still argue how often royal bedding was changed or cleaned. Some suggest it was surprisingly frequent, given the status and resources, while others argue that it was more occasional, with reliance on aromatic additives to mask the natural odors of sweat and dust. You might also share your sleeping quarters with servants or pets. Cats were common companions, adding more layers of scent and potential dirt. The bedchamber was a microcosm of royal life, where comfort, status, and hygiene met in a complex dance. As you sink into your bed, the lingering scent of oils, perfumes, and the day's activities settles around you. A fragrant but imperfect shield against the less glamorous aspects of palace life. You close your eyes, hoping the soft breeze will carry away the stickiness of the day. In short, royal sleeping habits were a mix of sensory luxury and inevitable human messiness, comfort with a side of mild olfactory offense. You glance down at your hands, adorned with glossy, lacquered nails that speak of wealth and leisure. Nail care for Egyptian royal women was an important ritual, a visual statement of status. But what lay beneath those shiny surfaces could be less than pristine. Royal nail polish was made from a mixture of henna, red ochre, and other natural pigments, sometimes mixed with oils or wax to create a glossy finish. The vibrant reds and oranges were symbols of vitality and nobility. However, the thick layers applied to nails often trapped dirt and sweat underneath, creating a perfect environment for bacteria to multiply. A mainstream fact. Nails were often grown longer among the elite as a sign they did not engage in manual labor, and their care was a task for attendants skilled in delicate grooming. But longer nails are also harder to keep clean, especially in a dusty environment. A quirky fringe tidbit. Some queens decorated their nails with tiny jewels or gold leaf, adding another layer of opulence and complexity to their hygiene routines. Imagine trying to keep those decorations intact while navigating daily palace life. Historians still argue how often nails were cleaned or trimmed, with some suggesting that the lacquered surface was changed regularly, while others believe it was a more occasional luxury. The thick polish, while beautiful, sometimes led to fungal infections or skin irritation around the nail beds. You might have used special sticks or tiny brushes to clean under your nails, but these tools themselves could become reservoirs of germs if not properly maintained. Servants likely helped with these tasks, but even with assistance, absolute cleanliness was hard to achieve. In short, your manicured nails were less about hygiene and more about presentation. A delicate balance between beauty and the inevitable accumulation of dirt beneath the surface. You wander through bustling market streets where common folk wash with water from communal wells, while back in the palace, royal hygiene was a very different and far more complicated affair. Comparing public baths and private palace practices reveals a surprising contrast in cleanliness and social norms. Public baths were simple, shared spaces where Egyptians from all walks of life gathered to bathe, socialize, and perform rituals. These baths were often open air and filled with Nile or well water, reused by many patrons. The communal aspect meant water was rarely changed. increasing the risk of contamination. In contrast, royal women enjoyed private bathing quarters with attendants to assist in their rituals. Yet, as you've learned, the water wasn't always fresh, and oils, perfumes, and reused basins often complicated true cleanliness. The palace environment balanced luxury with practicality, sometimes sacrificing hygiene for tradition or convenience. Historians still argue whether commoners practiced better personal hygiene due to simpler routines, or if royal habits, despite their complexity, resulted in overall better cleanliness. It's a messy debate, but one thing's clear: neither lifestyle was free from the challenges posed by the environment and technology of the time. A quirky fringe tidbit: public bath attendants sometimes used special scrapers and sponges to help patrons exfoliate, a practice less common in royal settings, where the emphasis was on oils and perfumes. This practical scrubbing might have been more effective at removing dirt, but lacked the glamour of royal rituals. Meanwhile, in the palace, servants often took on the less pleasant tasks of cleaning and maintaining water basins, bathtubs, and bathing areas. Their work was essential, but behind the scenes, allowing queens to enjoy their daily luxuries without lifting a finger. So the hygiene gap between commoners and royalty was not simply about access, but also about the methods and cultural values surrounding cleanliness. Royal baths were more about ceremony and appearance, while public baths prioritized function and community. This contrast paints a fuller picture of ancient Egyptian hygiene, where status influenced not just what you used, but how you thought about cleanliness itself. You feel the gritty texture of your homemade body scrub, a strange blend of ground minerals, crushed seeds, and fragrant oils prepared by your attendants. This royal exfoliation ritual is meant to cleanse your skin of dead cells and impurities, but the concoction is far from gentle by today's standards. Ancient Egyptian, royal women prized smooth, radiant skin, and scrubbing was an essential part of their grooming. Common ingredients included crushed natron, an abrasive salt mixture, along with pumice and fine sand. These harsh materials, when rubbed against skin, could strip away not only dead cells, but also natural oils, sometimes leaving your skin dry and irritated. Historians still argue how often these scrubs were applied, balancing the benefits of exfoliation against potential damage. Some suggest daily use, while others believe it was a weekly luxury reserved for special occasions or religious ceremonies. A quirky fringe tidbit: some scrubs included ground donkey hoof powder, thought to have exfoliating and cleansing properties. While it sounds bizarre now, this ingredient was valued for its supposed ability to smooth rough skin and improve circulation. Your attendants would carefully mix these abrasive powders with fragrant oils like myrrh or frankincense, creating a paste that both cleaned and perfumed your skin. The ritual was as much about indulgence and relaxation as it was about hygiene, despite the sticky residue left by oils after scrubbing. The process helped remove the gritty dust and dirt that clung to your skin from daily life in a desert environment. However, the sticky oils also made you more prone to attracting flies and dust particles, an ironic trade-off in your quest for cleanliness. In royal tomb paintings, you might see depictions of women with smooth, glowing skin. But behind those images was a complex and sometimes uncomfortable routine of scrubbing, moisturizing, and fragrance application. So your royal body scrub was both a beauty treatment and a balancing act between cleansing and irritation, a sensory experience that reflected the contradictions of ancient Egyptian hygiene. You step cautiously toward the royal latrine, a chamber discreetly tucked away within the palace, designed for privacy, but far from the modern notion of cleanliness. Ancient Egyptian toilet habits among the royal class reveal a mix of ingenuity, practicality, and some eyebrow-raising hygiene challenges. The toilets themselves were often simple seats made of wood or stone, placed over pits or channels that allowed waste to flow away, sometimes into the Nile, other times into cesspools. Unlike the sophisticated plumbing you might imagine, these systems were basic, and odors could quickly become overwhelming. A mainstream fact is that Egyptians used small sticks or fragments of smooth pottery as cleaning implements, far from the disposable toilet paper we take for granted. These tools were washed and reused, raising questions about their effectiveness in maintaining cleanliness. A quirky fringe tidbit: some royal women reportedly used soft papyrus reeds as a gentler alternative for cleansing, which doubled as a modesty shield in certain ritual contexts. These delicate stalks were prized for their smoothness, but might have been less effective at thorough cleaning. Historians still argue whether the royal latrines were serviced more frequently than those in common homes, or if the palace's complex sanitation systems sometimes backfired, creating unpleasant conditions despite their luxury. Servants were tasked with maintaining the latrines, removing waste, and cleaning the area. But the lack of running water and modern disinfectants meant odors and germs were persistent problems. Interestingly, the disposal of waste sometimes had ritual significance. Waste was seen as impure and was often discarded carefully to avoid contaminating sacred spaces. This added a layer of religious consideration to the practical aspects of hygiene. Despite these efforts, it's likely that royal latrines were far from odor-free and probably ranked high on the things you'd rather not think about list after a long day of palace life. So royal toilet habits combined necessity with ritual and hygiene struggles, offering a glimpse into a less glamorous but essential aspect of daily life for Egyptian queens. You navigate the discreet rituals surrounding menstruation, a topic cloaked in privacy yet essential to the hygiene habits of Egyptian royal women. Managing menstrual flow in a time before modern sanitary products involved resourcefulness and careful discretion. Royal women likely used folded linen cloths as primitive menstrual pads, changing them frequently to maintain some level of cleanliness. These cloths were washed and reused, a process that demanded care to prevent infection in an era without antiseptics. A mainstream fact is that menstrual blood was often considered ritually impure, leading to taboos and practices aimed at isolating or concealing the flow. Royal women might have observed specific rituals or avoided certain public activities during their periods. A quirky fringe tidbit: some texts suggest the use of papyrus fibers or softened papyrus pads as absorbent materials, prized for their availability and softness. Though crude by modern standards, these natural materials were a practical solution for managing hygiene discreetly. Historians still argue about the extent to which menstrual hygiene practices varied between social classes. Some believe royalty had access to better materials and more attendants to assist, while others think the practices were broadly similar across society. The process of washing and drying menstrual cloths was vital to prevent infection. But water scarcity and the hot climate complicated these efforts. Sun drying and airing were common, though whether this effectively sanitized the cloths is uncertain. Privacy during menstruation was paramount, with royal chambers designed to provide seclusion. However, this isolation might have added psychological stress alongside the physical discomfort. Despite these challenges, managing menstrual hygiene was a routine part of royal life, woven into broader hygiene habits and cultural beliefs. So, menstrual hygiene for Egyptian queens was a careful balance of practicality, discretion, and ritual purity, a hidden but essential facet of their daily existence. You watch as your attendants move swiftly and silently, their roles extending beyond simple service to the complex task of maintaining your hygiene. The presence and actions of slaves and servants in the royal household played a crucial, yet sometimes overlooked part in your daily cleanliness, or the lack thereof. These servants were responsible for fetching water, preparing oils and perfumes, assisting with bathing rituals, and even grooming tasks like hair combing and nail care. Their hands touched every part of your person, making their own hygiene habits indirectly impact your cleanliness. A mainstream fact: palace slaves often lived in crowded quarters and performed labor-intensive tasks, conditions ripe for spreading lice, fleas, and other parasites. Their own hygiene might have been compromised, inadvertently affecting the queen's environment. A quirky fringe tidbit is that some attendants specialized as cleaners for the royal bathing areas, using rudimentary tools to scrub basins and remove residue. But without modern disinfectants, their efforts only partially controlled the spread of germs. Historians still argue whether the close proximity of slaves and servants made hygiene management easier through constant care or more complicated by cross-contamination. The balance between service and sanitation was delicate. Some evidence suggests that certain slaves had specific hygiene-related roles, such as perfume bearers, who ensured scent was maintained throughout the day, or bath attendants, skilled in mixing oils and scrubs. Their expertise was vital, but also brought them into intimate contact with the queen's bodily residues. Despite their essential functions, servants were often excluded from the glamour of palace life and bore the brunt of unsanitary conditions. Their living spaces and tools might have been breeding grounds for pests, indirectly affecting the entire household. So, while royal hygiene rituals were elaborate, they depended heavily on the diligence and cleanliness of the servants, a hidden but critical layer in the palace's sanitation web. You lie back as your attendants apply an exotic beauty treatment. Snake venom mixed into a paste, promising radiant, youthful skin. The risks are high, but so are the stakes in royal appearance. This daring practice is one of many bizarre beauty rituals endured by Egyptian queens in pursuit of flawless skin. Animal products played a significant role in royal cosmetics and treatments. Snake venom, believed to tighten and smooth skin, was carefully diluted and applied, though the potential for irritation, or worse, was real. The use of venom demonstrated the extremes royal women were willing to endure to maintain their divine allure. Historians still argue whether these treatments were widespread or limited to a few adventurous queens known for their eccentric tastes. Some suggest such practices were part of secret rituals passed down in the royal household, a quirky fringe tidbit. Other risky beauty methods included the use of crocodile dung as a sunscreen or healing salve, which, while intended to protect, might have introduced infections rather than preventing them. You might also have endured facials using honey and milk mixtures designed to soothe and soften skin. These treatments, though gentler, carried their own sticky challenges, attracting flies and dust as you lounged waiting for the potion to work. The paradox of these rituals is clear. To achieve a flawless appearance, you exposed your skin to substances that could harm or irritate, betting on the benefits outweighing the risks. This gamble was part of royal life, where beauty was power, and no treatment was too strange. Your attendants needed to be skilled, not only in applying these potions, but in managing any adverse effects, making their role both practical and protective. So, royal beauty routines often teetered on the edge between science and superstition, with treatments like snake venom exemplifying the strange, sometimes dangerous lengths. Queens went for skin that glowed like the sun. You sit at your elaborate dining table, savoring figs, dates, and a hearty serving of fish, all delicacies fit for a queen. But as you eat, there's more at play than just flavor. Your royal diet subtly influences your body's scent and overall hygiene, whether you realize it or not. Egyptian royal cuisine was rich in aromatic spices, herbs, and fermented foods, which could leave lingering odors on your breath and skin. The consumption of garlic and onions, staples in many ancient diets, is known today to contribute to strong body odors. So while your meals nourished your body, they also worked quietly behind the scenes to challenge your freshness. Historians still argue the extent to which diet impacted royal hygiene. Some believe the careful use of perfumes and frequent bathing were responses to these dietary effects, while others suggest royal diets were specifically designed to minimize unpleasant odors. A quirky fringe tidbit: some queens reportedly chewed aromatic herbs like mint or anise after meals to freshen breath, an ancient precursor to modern mouthwash. This small ritual likely helped mask the less desirable smells from rich feasts. Your attendants might have prepared special spiced waters or mouth rinses made from honey and herbs, a subtle effort to maintain the illusion of perfection. Yet, in the humid palace environment, these measures were often fighting a losing battle against the natural scents produced by digestion and sweat. The high sugar content in fruits like dates and figs also contributed to dental decay, connecting your diet back to the challenges of maintaining a royal smile. It's a reminder that beauty and hygiene were intertwined, with every bite affecting your body's presentation. So the foods you ate weren't just fuel, they were silent partners in the ongoing story of your royal hygiene, influencing how you smelled, looked, and felt throughout the day. You glide through the palace gardens, the scent of blooming lotus and jasmine mingling with the faint undertone of sweat and dust. These lush outdoor spaces, meant for leisure and ceremony, were also surprisingly problematic for hygiene. The warm Egyptian sun and dusty environment meant that skin quickly accumulated grime, despite frequent bathing. You'd find yourself constantly dusted with fine sand blown in by the desert winds, clinging stubbornly to the oils on your skin and hair. The gardens, though beautiful, were no sanctuary from the realities of dirt, a mainstream fact. Royal gardens were often irrigated with Nile water, which could be reused and potentially contaminated, further complicating cleanliness for those who frequented these areas. A quirky fringe tidbit: some queens wore fragrant oils and powders specifically designed to mask garden odors, including scents extracted from rare flowers or crushed insects. This aromatic camouflage was both practical and luxurious, but probably did little to stop actual dirt from settling. Historians still argue the extent to which garden visits impacted royal hygiene, with some evidence suggesting that queens limited their time outdoors to avoid the grime. while others embraced the natural setting despite the mess. You might also have worn flowing linen garments that caught and trapped dust, requiring constant brushing and dusting by attendants. These clothes were washed less frequently than you might hope, meaning the dirt accumulated over days, clinging stubbornly to fabric. Despite these challenges, the gardens were vital spaces for relaxation and spiritual renewal. So the inconvenience of dirt was a trade-off for the pleasure of nature and fresh air. In short, the royal gardens were an elegant backdrop for palace life, but also a gritty reminder that no amount of luxury could fully shield you from the dusty desert world. You cradle your alabaster jar filled with a thick, sticky concoction used for hair removal, a practice surprisingly common among Egyptian royal women who prized smooth, hairless skin as a symbol of purity and beauty. Yet, the methods employed were anything but gentle. Waxing and sugaring techniques used natural resins, and honey combined with finely ground minerals to create pastes that were heated and applied to the skin before being pulled away, sometimes with cloth strips. The process was painful and could cause redness, irritation, and even small wounds, a mainstream fact. Hair removal was an integral part of Egyptian grooming, with many queens opting for completely shaved or waxed bodies to align with cultural ideals of cleanliness and elegance. A quirky fringe tidbit: some hair removal pastes included ingredients like crocodile fat or other animal products believed to soothe the skin or prevent regrowth. Though these mixtures often smelled less than pleasant, historians still argue how frequently these treatments were performed and whether they were reserved for special occasions or part of daily grooming. The ritualistic aspect of hair removal also tied into religious notions of purity. Your attendants, skilled in the art of waxing and sugaring, played an essential role in maintaining your smooth appearance. They carefully mixed pastes, monitored temperatures, and managed the aftermath of redness and sensitivity. Interestingly, the hair removed was often repurposed or buried as part of ritual practices, symbolizing purification or renewal, highlighting the spiritual dimensions intertwined with physical grooming. While the practice achieved the desired aesthetic, it came with its own set of hygiene challenges. Open pores, inviting dust, oils, and bacteria that could lead to infections if not properly cared for. So hair removal was both a beauty and hygiene ritual wrapped in pain, tradition, and a touch of ancient science, marking another complex layer in the royal hygiene narrative. You reach for your alabaster jar filled with an intriguingly pungent balm, designed to soothe cracked heels and rough feet, a part of royal grooming often overlooked, but crucial in a society where sandals were the norm and feet bore the brunt of the desert's harsh terrain. The balm was a thick paste made from animal fats honey, and crushed herbs like mint and juniper, believed to soften and heal the skin. While effective to a degree, the greasy nature of the ointment made your feet slippery and prone to collecting dirt, dust, and the ever-present desert grit, a mainstream fact. Foot care was highly valued among Egyptian royals, with dedicated servants tasked to massage and cleanse feet regularly to maintain comfort and appearance. A quirky fringe tidbit: some treatments included the application of crocodile dung, believed to possess medicinal properties and aid in healing cracked skin. This might seem unappetizing today, but in that time, such remedies were part of the healing arsenal. Historians still argue whether these remedies were more effective than harmful, especially considering the risk of infections in the warm climate. Though the ritual itself was important in royal self-care, you'd likely spend time reclining while attendants carefully applied the balm, massaging your feet to stimulate circulation and ease the day's fatigue. A sensory experience, both comforting and slightly sticky. Footwear itself, often made of leather or woven reeds, provided little protection from sand and dirt, emphasizing the importance of these treatments to prevent calluses and infections. So royal foot care was a blend of necessity and luxury, mixing odd ingredients with dedicated attention to ensure that even your feet upheld your status as a queen. You enter the aromatic chamber where your attendants prepare your daily dose of depilatory wax, a sticky mixture designed to strip away unwanted body hair, and with it, any chance of feeling truly clean. The process is slow and sticky, accompanied by whispered assurances that smooth skin equals royal purity. Depilation was more than a cosmetic choice. It was a cultural imperative for Egyptian queens, symbolizing both cleanliness and spiritual renewal. The waxes were made from honey, resin, and crushed minerals, sometimes heated to precise temperatures before application, a mainstream fact. Hair removal was practiced not only for aesthetics, but also as a means to reduce body odor and lice infestations, two persistent hygiene challenges in the hot, crowded palace environment. A quirky fringe tidbit: some recipes included ingredients like crocodile fat or even crocodile dung, believed to have medicinal properties to soothe the skin or prevent hair regrowth. Despite the less than pleasant smell, historians still debate how frequently these treatments were performed and whether the rituals surrounding depilation had religious significance beyond mere hygiene. The waxing process required skilled hands. Your attendants would carefully apply the warm mixture, press cloth strips, and rip them away, leaving your skin smooth, but often red and tender. Post-treatment care included the application of fragrant oils and balms to calm the skin, a delicate balance between luxury and discomfort. Despite the pain and mess, hair removal was seen as essential to maintaining the image and health of a queen, a daily reminder that beauty and hygiene demanded sacrifice. So your royal depilation rituals were a sticky, painful, and oddly fragrant affair, a testament to the lengths Egyptian queens went to uphold their divine image. You settle into a carved stone basin filled with warm, fragrant water, infused with petals and herbs, your daily royal bath. Yet, beneath the relaxing surface lies a complicated relationship with cleanliness, as bathing in ancient Egypt was as much ritual as refreshment. Baths were often communal affairs for commoners, but as a queen, you enjoyed private baths with attendants to assist in washing, scrubbing, and anointing. The water came from the Nile or specially maintained pools, often recycled due to scarcity, raising questions about true cleanliness, a mainstream fact. Bathing was linked to religious purification, with water symbolizing renewal and rebirth in Egyptian culture. A quirky fringe tidbit: some baths included the addition of natron salt, a natural cleanser believed to have disinfectant properties, though overuse could dry out skin. Historians still argue how frequently royals bathed. Daily rituals are depicted, but the practical limitations of water supply and sanitation suggest baths might have been less frequent or shorter than imagined. Your attendants would use linen cloths or soft brushes to scrub your skin, helping remove oils and dust that water alone couldn't wash away. Perfumes and oils were applied post-bath, creating a barrier that both scented and protected skin, though these also trapped sweat and dirt throughout the day. The bath ritual was an intersection of luxury, health, and spiritual practice, offering momentary relief from the dust and grime of palace life. So royal bathing was less about pure hygiene and more a carefully orchestrated experience, balancing physical cleansing, sensory pleasure, and religious symbolism. You carefully unwrap your linen garment, feeling its coarse texture against your skin, a far cry from the soft cotton or silk you might imagine. Clothing hygiene for Egyptian royal women was a complex dance of delicate fabrics, sweat, dust, and limited washing methods. Linen woven from flax was the fabric of choice. It was breathable and lightweight, but also prone to retaining dirt, sweat, and odors, especially in Egypt's hot climate. You and your attendants worked diligently to keep garments as clean as possible, but frequent washing was a luxury, a mainstream fact. Linen was often bleached by spreading it out under the sun, and sometimes soaked in alkaline solutions like natron to whiten and disinfect. This natural bleaching process was effective but time-consuming, a quirky fringe tidbit. Some garments were scented with perfumes or embedded with small pouches of aromatic herbs to mask odors, adding a layer of fragrance that became part of your personal scent profile. Historians still debate how often royal clothing was changed or washed. Some argue that outfits were rotated and aired regularly rather than frequently laundered, while others suggest more rigorous hygiene due to royal status. Your attendants likely brushed dust off clothing and aired them in shaded areas to minimize sun damage and fading. Stains were probably spot cleaned rather than fully washed out, preserving fabric longevity. The difficulty of maintaining garment hygiene was compounded by the sticky oils and perfumes applied to your skin, which transferred onto fabric, creating a complex interplay of scents and residues. So, while your royal linen was a symbol of purity and status, it was also a magnet for the inevitable grime of palace life, a textile testament to the ongoing challenges of hygiene in ancient Egypt. You lean into the gentle breeze wafting through the palace corridors, aware that maintaining personal scent was an elaborate performance in itself. Perfumes and scented oils weren't just luxuries. They were essential weapons in the royal hygiene arsenal against the relentless heat and desert dust. Royal perfumes were crafted from exotic resins, flowers, and spices, distilled into oils that were carefully applied to pulse points and hair. The scents were strong, lingering, and designed to announce your presence even before you entered a room, a mainstream fact. Ancient Egyptians were among the first civilizations to develop complex perfume-making techniques, using ingredients like myrrh, frankincense, and cinnamon, valued both for fragrance and spiritual significance. A quirky fringe tidbit: some perfumes included ingredients with medicinal properties, like crushed beetles or ambergris, believed to ward off illness and evil spirits, as well as smell pleasant. Historians still argue whether perfume use was purely cosmetic or deeply intertwined with religious rituals and magical beliefs. For queens, the scent was both a mark of status and protection. Applying perfume was a daily ritual involving multiple layers, oils, scented powders, and balms, each adding complexity and sometimes competing aromas. Attendants helped with the precise application, ensuring your scent remained just so. However, these rich scents could also attract insects and dust, creating a paradox where the very substances meant to freshen you also made you a beacon for pests. The challenge was balancing the overpowering scents with the need to mask natural body odors, a delicate olfactory dance that defined the invisible aspect of royal hygiene. So your perfumes were more than fragrance. They were armor against the desert, a social statement, and a complicated sensory experience that shaped your daily life. You recline on your divan, the scent of your daily oil treatments still lingering on your skin, a ritual as much about comfort as cleanliness. Body oils were a cornerstone of Egyptian royal hygiene, used to moisturize, perfume, and protect skin from the harsh sun and arid air. These oils were often extracted from plants like castor, sesame, and moringa, sometimes mixed with fragrant resins or essential oils. Applying them helped prevent skin cracking and soothed irritation, though the thick layers also trapped dust and dirt throughout the day. A mainstream fact. Body oil application was a daily necessity in Egypt's desert climate, crucial for maintaining the delicate balance of moisture on skin exposed to relentless sun and wind. A quirky fringe tidbit. Some oil mixtures included exotic additives like crushed gemstones or powdered precious metals, believed to enhance beauty and confer spiritual protection. Historians still argue how often oils were reapplied, with some texts suggesting multiple daily applications, while others imply a more measured approach to avoid excessive greasiness. Your attendants would massage oils into your skin, turning the process into a soothing ritual that combined practical care with moments of indulgence and relaxation. The downside. The sticky, oily residue made attracting dust and grime inevitable, creating a paradox where the very substance meant to protect skin also invited the desert's persistent dirt. Despite this, oils were indispensable, a royal secret weapon that kept your skin supple and your appearance radiant, even if it meant frequent bathing and scrubbing to manage the residue. So your royal oil rituals were a sticky but vital dance between protection, luxury, and the stubborn realities of ancient hygiene. You step into the fragrant, dimly lit chamber where your hair treatments await. A complex blend of oils, resins, and herbs designed to maintain your luscious locks, despite the harsh desert environment. Hair care was a daily ritual that balanced beauty, hygiene, and sometimes a little bit of mess. Egyptian royal women often wore elaborate wigs made of human hair or plant fibers, styled meticulously to display status. Your own hair or wig required regular washing and conditioning to keep dust, oils, and sweat at bay. No easy feat, given limited water and cleaning agents. A mainstream fact. The use of castor oil and other botanical extracts was common for moisturizing and protecting hair, believed to strengthen strands and promote shine. A quirky fringe tidbit. Some hair treatments included infusions of fermented fish sauce, thought to stimulate growth, though the smell probably made the process less than pleasant for everyone involved. Historians still debate how often wigs were cleaned or replaced, with some evidence suggesting frequent changes during ceremonies, but more relaxed routines day to day. Your attendants would carefully wash your hair or wig, apply nourishing oils, and style it with wooden combs or pins, transforming the process into an intimate, tactile experience, full of fragrances and textures. Despite these efforts, the combination of oils and dust often led to scalp irritation or even lice infestations, requiring special treatments and vigilance. So your royal hair care was a fragrant, sometimes smelly, often sticky routine that balanced aesthetics with the practical challenges of desert living, a testament to the persistence and dedication of your grooming rituals. You settle in as your attendants gently clean your ears, a delicate but essential part of your hygiene routine that often goes unnoticed in royal tales. Ear care in ancient Egypt was surprisingly sophisticated, reflecting broader attitudes toward cleanliness and bodily care. Cotton swabs didn't exist, but small sticks with soft fibers or papyrus fragments were used to remove earwax and debris. Given the dusty environment, your ears needed regular attention to prevent irritation or infection, a mainstream fact. Ear cleaning was common practice across Egyptian society, with some evidence showing tools specifically designed for this purpose found in tombs and archaeological sites. A quirky fringe tidbit: some attendants used scented oils or herbal infusions to soothe and deodorize the ear canal, combining hygiene with fragrance in a uniquely Egyptian way. Historians still argue how often this intimate ritual occurred, and whether it had any ritualistic significance beyond cleanliness, as bodily care was often intertwined with spiritual beliefs. Your attendants approached this task with care, mindful of your comfort, while ensuring your ears remained free from the thick dust that settled everywhere in the palace. Despite the best efforts, ear infections could occur, especially if the tools weren't perfectly clean, a reminder that hygiene was always a balancing act between care and risk. So your royal ear cleaning ritual was a small but vital part of your daily grooming, combining practicality, tenderness, and a touch of ancient medicinal wisdom. You stretch your fingers, inspecting the delicate henna designs freshly painted onto your hands and feet, a ritual blending beauty, symbolism, and a subtle form of protection against dirt and infection. Henna wasn't just decoration. It had practical and spiritual purposes in royal hygiene. The reddish-orange dye came from crushed henna leaves mixed with water, and sometimes scented with essential oils. Applied carefully in intricate patterns, it stained your skin for days, creating a barrier that some believed repelled insects and reduced bacterial growth, a mainstream fact. Henna was widely used in ancient Egypt for cosmetic and ritual purposes, symbolizing joy, fertility, and protection. A quirky fringe tidbit: some formulas included crushed snail shells or other additives intended to strengthen the stain and enhance protective qualities. A curious blend of natural ingredients. Historians still debate whether the protective benefits of henna were primarily symbolic, or if the antimicrobial properties had real hygienic effects. Your attendants would patiently paint the designs, turning your hands and feet into living canvases, while you waited for the paste to dry and the color to deepen. Though beautiful, the henna also made washing hands a delicate task, You couldn't scrub without fading the designs, so you relied on gentle cleansing methods. So henna was more than skin deep. It was an ancient form of protective art, combining hygiene, spirituality, and aesthetics in a ritual uniquely suited to the Egyptian queen. You lean back as your attendants prepare to massage aromatic ointments into your temples, a soothing end to a day filled with the challenges of royal hygiene. Head massages were both a luxury and a practical means to promote circulation and relieve tension beneath the weight of crowns and elaborate hairstyles. These ointments combined oils infused with calming herbs like lavender, rosemary, and myrrh, believed to soothe headaches and improve skin condition. The ritual was as much about comfort as maintaining your divine composure, a mainstream fact. Scalp massages and the use of herbal ointments were common in ancient Egyptian grooming, helping alleviate stress and prevent scalp ailments. A quirky fringe tidbit: some ointments included rare ingredients like powdered lapis lazuli or gold dust, adding sparkle and supposed spiritual benefits alongside their soothing properties. Historians still argue the extent to which these massages were daily indulgences or reserved for special occasions and religious ceremonies, reflecting the blurred lines between health and ritual. Your attendants' skilled fingers kneaded away tension, spreading fragrant oils that lingered long after the massage ended, a subtle but constant reminder of your royal status. Despite the pleasure, the sticky residue attracted dust and occasionally irritated sensitive skin, requiring careful balance in application and frequency. So your temple massages were a fragrant, relaxing counterpoint to the daily rigors of royal hygiene, a moment of peace amid the palace's dusty hustle. You rise slowly, feeling the weight of your ornate jewelry pressing lightly against your skin, a subtle reminder that royal adornment came with its own set of hygiene challenges. Necklaces, bracelets, and rings, often made of gold and precious stones, were symbols of power, but also potential traps for dirt and sweat. Your jewelry was worn daily, exposed to dust, sweat, and oils, and required regular cleaning to prevent tarnish and skin irritation. Attendants would carefully polish each piece, ensuring it gleamed and didn't harbor bacteria, a mainstream fact. Egyptian jewelers were skilled in crafting intricate pieces that balanced beauty with durability, often incorporating symbols believed to protect the wearer. A quirky fringe tidbit: some pieces contained tiny compartments for scented oils or incense, turning your jewelry into wearable perfume dispensers. Historians still debate how often jewelry was removed for cleaning, and whether constant wear contributed to skin problems like rashes or infections. Your attendants also cleaned the skin beneath the jewelry, mindful that dirt and sweat could accumulate unnoticed, creating a breeding ground for microbes. Despite the care, the combination of metal, skin oils, and environmental dust made jewelry hygiene a constant concern, another layer of complexity in your royal grooming routine. So your sparkling adornments were both beautiful and burdensome, reflecting the intertwined nature of luxury and hygiene in ancient Egypt. You close the day by removing your makeup, the bold kohl lining your eyes, the subtle red pigment on your lips, and the dusting of powdered minerals on your face. While makeup was a mark of beauty and status, the removal process revealed another side of royal hygiene, fraught with challenges. Kohl was made from galena, a lead-based mineral providing dramatic eye definition and believed to protect against infections and the sun's glare. The pigments for lips and cheeks were derived from red ochre or hematite, ground and mixed with oils, a mainstream fact. Makeup application was daily, but the cleaning process required delicate care to avoid skin damage and eye irritation. A quirky fringe tidbit: some removal techniques involved using animal fats mixed with honey, creating a sticky paste that required patience to wipe away, often leaving residue that attracted dust. Historians still argue the health impacts of lead-based cosmetics, balancing the protective beliefs against actual toxicity. Your attendants gently wiped away makeup with linen cloths soaked in oils or herbal infusions, a slow ritual signaling the end of the day and the transition from public to private life. Despite their efforts, residues often remained, contributing to skin blemishes or eye infections. Yet another trade-off in the complex hygiene balance. So removing your royal makeup was a careful, sometimes sticky, nightly ritual, a final layer in the long day of ancient Egyptian hygiene, reminding you that beauty, even divine beauty, came with its own messy costs. You slip into your flowing linen nightdress, its fibers cool and coarse against your skin, a humble end to a day of royal opulence and hygiene struggles. Nighttime rituals for Egyptian queens were a subtle blend of comfort, cleanliness, and preparation for restful sleep amid the palace's dusty, bustling environment. Sleepwear was typically made from fine linen, chosen for breathability in the hot desert nights, though it lacked the softness we expect today. These garments were usually simple, loose-fitting, and occasionally scented with dried herbs like lavender or cedar to promote relaxation and ward off insects, a mainstream fact. Linen was prized for its moisture-wicking properties, making it an ideal choice for sleepwear in Egypt's warm climate. A quirky fringe tidbit: some queens incorporated small pouches of aromatic herbs sewn into their night garments, releasing calming scents as they moved, a natural way to enhance sleep quality. Historians still debate the extent to which night hygiene included changing or washing sleepwear daily. Given the scarcity of water and the demands of palace life, before bed, you and your attendants performed a gentle evening cleanse, removing oils, perfumes, and makeup residues to prevent skin irritation overnight. A careful balance of thoroughness and gentleness to protect delicate skin. The royal bedroom itself was a carefully maintained sanctuary, though not immune to dust and pests. Curtains and woven mats helped reduce drafts and insects, while incense burned softly to mask less pleasant palace odors. Despite these efforts, the sticky residues from the day's treatments and the inevitable desert dust meant that true cleanliness was elusive, even in the quiet hours. So your night hygiene was a calming ritual combining fabric, fragrance, and gentle cleansing. A final act of self-care before surrendering to sleep in a world where luxury and grime lived side by side. You stroke the sleek fur of your palace cat as it curls beside your feet, a beloved companion, yet a surprising contributor to the royal hygiene puzzle. Pets in the Egyptian court, especially cats and birds, brought joy and status, but also a set of unexpected cleanliness challenges. Cats were revered and often allowed free roam of palace chambers, hunting pests, but shedding fur, and sometimes tracking dirt onto your precious linens. Birds, kept in ornate cages, added the soundtrack of chirps and fluttering wings, and the occasional mess of feathers and droppings, a mainstream fact. Cats were considered sacred animals linked to Goddess Bastet, so their presence in royal homes was both a cultural and spiritual symbol. A quirky fringe tidbit: some royal attendants trained their feline companions to act as pest controllers, encouraging them to hunt rodents, but also inadvertently spreading fleas and ticks throughout the palace. Historians still argue the extent to which the royal household implemented measures to control pet-related hygiene issues, balancing reverence with practical concerns. Your attendants regularly cleaned pet areas and combed animal fur to minimize shedding, though the close quarters meant dust and dander mingled with palace dust, complicating efforts to keep living spaces pristine. Pets also occasionally carried parasites that could transfer to humans, making the Queen's personal hygiene routines even more crucial in managing potential infestations. So, royal pets were cherished companions and status symbols, but their presence added a messy, living dimension to the ongoing battle for cleanliness in the palace. You prepare for a sacred temple visit by performing ritual purification, a cleansing that merges hygiene with deep spirituality, underscoring how Egyptian queens viewed cleanliness as both physical and divine. Before entering the temple, you wash your hands, face, and feet with water infused with lotus petals or natron, a naturally occurring mineral with cleansing and antiseptic properties. This purification wasn't just about removing dirt, but symbolizing moral and spiritual renewal, a mainstream fact. Ritual washings were an integral part of Egyptian religious practice, reflecting the belief that physical cleanliness was necessary to approach the gods. A quirky fringe tidbit. Some queens used perfumes made from rare resins during these rituals, believing the fragrances helped purify not just the body, but also the soul. Historians still argue the extent to which these rites were personalized by royalty or strictly dictated by religious norms, highlighting the fluid boundaries between daily hygiene and ritual purity. Attendants assisted in these ceremonies, ensuring every gesture was precise and imbued with meaning. From the gentle pouring of water to the symbolic cleansing of the mouth and nostrils, despite the care taken, temple visits were challenging environments for hygiene, with crowded spaces and shared artifacts increasing the risk of spreading germs. So purification rituals blended bodily care with spiritual devotion, making hygiene a sacred act that elevated royal cleanliness into a form of worship. You grimace slightly as your attendant tends to a small cut on your hand, a reminder that even royal women were not immune to the hazards of palace life. Managing wounds and illness was a delicate aspect of hygiene, blending medical knowledge, superstition, and ritual care. Royal physicians employed a variety of treatments, from herbal poultices made of honey, natron, and frankincense, to bandaging with linen strips. Honey's natural antibacterial properties made it a favored ingredient for wound care, helping prevent infections in an era before antibiotics. A mainstream fact. Egyptian medicine was surprisingly advanced for its time, with detailed records of treatments for wounds, infections, and diseases found in papyri and tomb inscriptions. A quirky fringe tidbit. Some remedies included the use of animal dung or moldy bread, believed to have healing powers despite modern skepticism about their efficacy. Historians still argue how much of royal medical care was evidence-based versus rooted in magical or religious practices, illustrating the blurred line between science and belief. Your attendants played a key role in daily wound care, cleaning, dressing, and monitoring for signs of infection, while priests might perform prayers or rituals to aid healing. Despite these efforts, the risk of complications remained high, especially in the warm palace environment, making hygiene vigilance critical to recovery. So managing illness and wounds was a complex interplay of practical care, traditional remedies, and spiritual support, a vital but challenging facet of royal hygiene. You stand before your polished mirror, taking a final, slow breath as your attendants put the finishing touches on your appearance. Preparing for public appearances was a meticulous, all-encompassing hygiene ritual, ensuring that every detail, from skin to scent to posture, projected an image of divine perfection. Your skin gleamed from hours of cleansing and oiling. Your hair was styled flawlessly, adorned with fragrant oils and jeweled pins. Attendants checked your makeup for smudges and reapplied perfume to maintain an aura of irresistible allure, a mainstream fact. Royal appearances were carefully choreographed events, with beauty and hygiene routines designed to impress not only the court, but foreign dignitaries and the gods themselves. A quirky fringe tidbit. Some queens reportedly wore hidden amulets imbued with scents that would slowly release, creating a personal fragrance trail as they moved through crowds. A subtle but effective statement of power. Historians still debate how much of this preparation was driven by genuine hygiene concerns versus theatrical spectacle, though both elements were undoubtedly intertwined. Your attendants adjusted your linen robes, smoothed your skin, and ensured your jewelry sparkled under the palace lights. Every touch a step toward embodying divine status. Despite the layers of perfumes and powders, the challenges of the desert dust, sweat, and heat remained relentless adversaries, making hygiene maintenance a constant behind-the-scenes battle. So the final preparation for public display was more than vanity. It was a carefully executed ritual affirming your place in the cosmic order, blending hygiene, beauty, and power into a seamless whole. You step quietly into the dim, fragrant world of the royal perfume workshops, a hidden sanctuary nestled deep within the palace walls. Here, the air hangs thick with the mingled scents of crushed flowers, exotic resins, and simmering oils, each carefully crafted to define the aura of the queen herself. The process of creating these complex fragrances is an art and science passed down through generations, blending the natural world's offerings with secret knowledge, guarded fiercely by the perfumers and attendants who serve the royal household. Imagine the delicate hands sorting through jars filled with ingredients, the sticky amber of frankincense, tiny golden tears of myrrh, petals from blooming lotus flowers plucked at dawn, and crushed cinnamon bark. Each element has a role not just for scent, but for its symbolic power, medicinal qualities, or spiritual significance. You breathe in deeply, the scent swirling around you, and feel the invisible threads that tie hygiene, beauty, and divine protection in this fragrant tapestry. The queen's signature perfume isn't a single note, but a layered symphony. Base oils like castor or sesame provide a nourishing foundation that carries the more volatile scents, jasmine, rose, and even crushed insects, believed to add a mystical sharpness to the aroma. Yes, crushed insects. This quirky, somewhat unsettling addition was thought to grant vitality and ward off evil, a reminder that royal fragrance was as much about magic as luxury. Historians still debate the exact recipes used in these workshops. Some argue that the formulas were standardized for royal use, while others suggest each queen had a unique blend, tailored to her personality and the message she wished to convey. Was a more floral scent chosen to embody fertility and grace? Did spicy or resinous notes assert power and protection? The mystery remains as elusive as the scents themselves. You watch as an attendant gently heats resins in a bronze vessel, the liquid bubbling slowly, releasing thick, sweet-smelling smoke that curls toward the vaulted ceiling. This resinous smoke serves not only to perfume the air, but also to cleanse it of impurities and insects. The workshop doubles as a sanctuary of both fragrance and pest control, blending hygiene with atmosphere in a way that only an ancient royal court could master. The mixing of perfumes requires patience and precision. Too much resin and the scent overwhelms too little, and it fades before the day is done. The attendants test each batch, applying small drops to linen strips that release their aromas gradually, a sensory preview of the final product. Your own skin is sometimes the testing ground, with oils dabbed behind ears or on wrists, marking your presence in the world with subtle power. The use of perfumes in royal hygiene extends beyond mere scent. These fragrances mask the less glamorous realities of palace life: the sweat after long hours in the sun, the inevitable dust clinging to skin and hair, and the stubborn odors of oils and ointments. In a way, the perfumes act like armor, a fragrant shield that both conceals and announces your status. A quirky tradition involved the creation of scent necklaces, tiny pouches filled with fragrant herbs and resins worn close to the skin. As you move, the pouch released a soft, persistent aroma, a personal aura that followed you like a shadow. Attendants took care to refresh these sachets regularly, a small but constant reminder of the care lavished upon your presence. Yet the perfume workshops were not without their challenges. The raw materials, sourced from distant lands, were precious and sometimes unpredictable. The fragile petals wilt quickly, resins could harden if heated improperly, and the balance of oils demanded a perfumer's keen intuition. It was a place of alchemy, where nature met human artistry, and where mistakes could be costly, both in resources and reputation. Beyond the physical sense, the workshops held a spiritual significance. Many believed that certain aromas connected the queen to the divine, enhancing her aura and ensuring favor from the gods. Incense, a close cousin of perfume, was burned during religious ceremonies, purifying spaces and elevating rituals. Thus, the perfumes you wore were not just personal adornments, but part of a sacred tradition, weaving together hygiene, beauty, and worship. The daily routine involved not only creating new perfumes, but also maintaining the delicate balance of scents already applied. Reapplying oils and sprays was a constant task for your attendants, who understood that a faded fragrance could diminish the aura of royalty. They carried small alabaster bottles filled with concentrated essences, dipping finely carved wands to apply just the right amount. As you navigate the palace halls, the scent trail you leave behind is both a statement and a mask, a fragrant veil hiding the grit and grime of royal life. Despite hours of bathing, oiling, and grooming, the desert's dust and the palace's close quarters ensured that true freshness was elusive. Perfume was your signature, your armor, and your invisible crown, even with such care, the perfume workshops had to contend with the realities of palace life. The influx of insects attracted by sweet smells, the heat that altered the potency of oils, and the constant need for rare ingredients that depended on distant trade routes. This made perfume production a delicate balancing act, as much about logistics as artistry. Some attendants specialized in scent creation, apprenticed from childhood to master the secrets of blending, storing, and applying fragrances. Their knowledge was highly prized, and their skills contributed not only to hygiene, but also to the political theater of court life. A well-chosen scent could convey messages, influence moods, or assert dominance in subtle but powerful ways. And so, as you glide through the scented corridors, you become part of a living tradition, a queen wrapped not only in fine linens and jewels, but in an invisible cloud of carefully crafted aromas. These perfumes carry stories of distant lands, ancient rituals, and the complex dance of hygiene and status in an unforgiving world. This fragrant world, though luxurious, reminds you that behind every sweet note lies a struggle against the inevitable challenges of dust, sweat, and time. The royal perfume workshops are a testament to human ingenuity, turning the raw gifts of nature into a shield of scent, an ancient alchemy of beauty, power, and survival. As twilight deepens over the palace, a subtle shift takes place. Nighttime beckons, and with it, an entirely different set of challenges emerges. The warm days of sun-soaked splendor give way to the persistent invasion of pests, buzzing insects, creeping rodents, and the unseen army of tiny nuisances that refuse to rest just because the queen does. Managing these nocturnal visitors becomes an essential, if less glamorous, part of royal hygiene. Imagine the dim corridors, where flickering oil lamps cast long shadows, and the soft rustling of silk is punctuated by the occasional skittering sound. Your attendants move quietly, armed with fragrant smoldering bundles of herbs and resins, scented smoke designed to repel moths, mosquitoes, and other unwelcome guests. These smoke rituals are as much about hygiene as about creating a protective atmosphere, a scented fortress against the night's unwelcome company. A mainstream fact. Ancient Egyptians used smoldering incense like frankincense, myrrh, and juniper to purify the air and ward off insects and disease. The combination of aromatic smoke and natural repellents formed an early line of defense in pest control. A quirky fringe tidbit. Some attendants carried small pouches filled with crushed garlic or crushed Nile mud, believed to repel not just insects, but evil spirits that might wander after dark. A mix of practical pest control and spiritual protection. Historians still debate the effectiveness of these nighttime rituals. Were they truly capable of reducing pests, or were they primarily symbolic, providing comfort and reassurance in a world where unseen dangers loomed large? The truth likely lies somewhere between. Your sleeping chamber is carefully prepared for rest, but dust and insects find ways to infiltrate even the most sacred spaces. Attendants hang fine nets over your bed, woven from the delicate fibers of flax, creating a protective barrier against mosquitoes and flies. These nets, though simple, are vital, preventing bites that could lead to infection or disrupt your much-needed sleep. The process of setting up these barriers is a ritual in itself. Attendants check for holes, adjust the fabric to fall perfectly around your bed, and treat the nets with natural oils that add an extra layer of repellency. This attention to detail reflects the broader palace approach. No corner of hygiene is left to chance. Meanwhile, traps for rodents, wooden cages baited with grain or sweet fruits, are placed strategically throughout the palace. Rats and mice are more than a nuisance. They threaten stored food supplies and spread disease, making their control a matter of health and security. A curious detail: some traps were crafted in the shapes of sacred animals, blending practical pest control with religious symbolism. An elegant example of how hygiene, superstition, and art intertwined in palace life. Your attendants also use natural repellents directly on your skin and clothing. Oils infused with citronella, mint, or neem, applied carefully to pulse points to discourage insect bites. While these scents mingle with your perfumes, they serve a crucial protective function, a fragrant shield against nocturnal pests. Despite all precautions, some insects inevitably slip through. The warm climate and dense palace population create ideal conditions for mosquitoes, flies, and fleas. Managing the discomfort and health risks posed by these pests is a constant concern, requiring vigilance and adaptability. You may awaken occasionally to the tickle of a mosquito or the itch of a flea, prompting a gentle scratching and a quick wave of your hand to brush the intruder away. While small, these irritations are reminders of the persistent struggle between luxury and nature. The nighttime pest control rituals extend beyond the bedroom. The palace kitchens, storerooms, and servant quarters also require attention, as these areas provide breeding grounds for vermin. Attendants sweep, burn herbs, and reset traps nightly, creating a coordinated defense against infestation. Interestingly, some royal rituals involved prayers or offerings to household gods, asking for protection against pests and disease. This spiritual dimension highlights how hygiene practices were deeply embedded in religious belief, blurring the line between physical care and divine intervention. The effort to keep the palace pest-free is unending. New trade routes introduce unfamiliar insects. Seasonal changes bring swarms of flies or locusts, and the constant presence of food and waste ensures that pests remain an ever-present challenge. Yet, through it all, the Queen's personal hygiene routine adapts. Your attendants remain alert, reapplying protective oils, adjusting nets, and maintaining a delicate balance between comfort and protection. Their expertise in these nighttime rituals is vital to preserving your health and tranquility. This ongoing battle against pests is a quieter, less glamorous chapter of royal hygiene, one without the sparkle of perfumes or the soothing balm of oils. But it is no less essential, a testament to the practical realities of palace life hidden behind layers of luxury. Ultimately, the nighttime pest control rituals reveal a deeply human aspect of ancient royal hygiene. The constant negotiation between environment and comfort, beauty and survival. The queen's serene sleep depends not only on lavish treatments, but also on the humble smoke, the woven nets, and the quiet vigilance of her attendants. So as darkness blankets the palace and the scents of smoldering herbs fill the air, remember that behind every peaceful night lies an intricate web of care and defense. A fragrant, smoky, and sometimes sticky shield guarding the queen's rest against the small but persistent enemies of the night. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together.